Yo, 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 people and patrons of the night, it is your boy, the Horrorlander, and I'm gonna cut straight to the chase. Classic horror literature, in my opinion, is extremely overrated and continues to be extremely overrated. All right, hold on. Don't type on the keyboard just yet. Get out the comments, get out the comments. Just let me talk my points, and then you can start typing away. I know some of y'all are foaming at the mouth like coyote with rabies. All right, chill, just hear me out, all right? Now listen, this is not me saying that these books are bad books. In fact, I would say a lot of classic horror literature out there are good to great books. But do I think that they hold that same weight when it comes to the horror genre, focusing on what makes a great horror piece of fiction? That's where my divide comes in. So, please check out my discussion, watch it all the way through, and then let me know your thoughts. It's going to be an unedited raw video, and I'm just going to be spitting to y'all my truth, and hopefully some of y'all can understand what I'm putting down. So let's get into it. The thing about classic horror literature is a lot of the time when you read books like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and Bram Stoker's Dracula, yes, these are good, great books. They're very well written, amazing character studies, but that lies the problem with what it comes to in the horror genre. These books, a lot of the time, even other great literature works out there like Moby Dick and Old Man in the Sea, they are character studies. You will have one character or a couple characters which get broken down in terms of their modus operandi, what makes them tick, why do they tick, where are they, what they're doing, and most importantly, how they evolve throughout the story. It's very character focused, sprinkled in with some horror elements. And that to me is not what horror, great horror, really should be. Because the thing that makes great horror books, fiction, anything, is the same thing that makes great comedians and great comedic work. What do I mean by that? When you look at great comedians, what they often do is they will observe something in the outside world or in their own internal world that they think is a truth, that they think is going sort of relatively unnoticed, or if it is noticed, it's not noticed enough. They will then take that and make an exaggerated, worked up story, and they will emphasize certain points, they will exaggerate certain points to make this ridiculous tale meant to make you laugh, right? It's meant to be fictitious, meant to make you laugh, kind of made for you to pander to the absurdity. But the reason why you relate to it, the reason why it resonates with you, is because it comes from a place of truth. They are taking their own truth that they notice and then incorporating that as the main structure of this exaggerated tale. And that's what makes you laugh. You laugh at the absurdity, the craziness, what makes comedy, but you relate to it so much because it's something that ties to you. It's something that relates to you. It's something that connects you to it and hooks you. Hooks you just like a fish on a line, bruh. And that's what makes great horror. Great horror is visceral. It's meant to scare the shit out of you. It's meant to creep you out. It's meant to gross you out. It's meant to make you paranoid of your surroundings, stress you out, make you dread things. Maybe you're checking under your bed. Maybe you're in your dark room paranoid of what's around you. Maybe you're out on a night stroll and getting paranoid. Maybe you see this big body of like this ocean at night or lake at night and you get terrified of what might be in there. That's what great horror is. And the reason why it becomes great horror is because they're touching upon something that relates to you. It is a universal fear. Many people fear that certain thing, and they just make a ridiculous, wild, creative tale out of it. That to me is the best horror. And the best horror to that, tapping into the weird, making those sort of weird, creative, out there, outlandish stories that have that little bit of truth in it. That's what makes the best horror fiction to me. The one that has the action, gets those visceral reactions, scary, creepy, gross, existential, all these things. But yet it is well written, maybe not by the prose, but by the fact that they have that little bit of honesty and truth that we all relate to and seek out. I have read the longest novels. I've read a 700-page novel I read called Nosferatu by Joe Hill, who, for those of you who don't know, Joe Hill is Stephen King's son, was a fantastic, perfect book to me. It had a dysfunctional, kind of out there main character with a very unique situation that you grow to fall in love with as you see her evolve. You have these other side characters who are integral to the plot and play their own role. You have the main villain who is very sort of mysterious but terrifying and creepy and can do some wild, weird, fun stuff involving his power. His sidekick is doing a lot of freaky, crazy shit that would be otherwise taboo to talk about, but it emphasizes his role in the story. And it was so well paced, it felt like I was watching a movie, a lot of action, but it mixes in good character study with that and gets you all those different horror aspects. It makes you paranoid, it makes you creeped out, it makes you scared, right? Other books like by Nathan Ballingrud, 6 Stories from the Border of Hell, Wounds, had some of the best world building I ever seen. You could tell that this guy really cared about making this giant horror world setting, his own version of hell, his own creatures, his own geography of the thing, and talking about how it relates to many different people in an anthological format across different eras and different settings. It was great. And there's a lot of short horror fiction I've seen out there, which is so weird, so out there, so fun, so crazy. And I feel like a lot of those authors, such as Joe Hill, Nathan Ballingrud, Tim Curran, other ones that are escaping my mind, even Stephen King. Stephen King has a lot of his best work in short fiction and other stuff that I feel like he should be up there at that Bram Stoker level. Because these guys are real fans of horror. They are really building on the aspect of horror. They are doing what great comedians do with comedy, and they're doing this with horror. That to me is great horror fiction. And when people bring those up as recommendations to me, I appreciate it. I love it. I love taking those in. But when you have people who, if you were to tell me your favorite book of all time is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, Bram Stoker's Dracula, I would have no problem with that because these are well-written books and they are great character studies. But as a horror fan, if you tell me that's your favorite horror book, I'm going to hit you with the rock eyebrow because these books are just character studies sprinkled in with horror, and the horror is very tame. And that's exactly why schools, colleges, and educational institutions oftentimes pick these books to promote to all their students and say that this is the best. Why? Because the same way that comedy taps into taboo subjects, taboo visuals, taboo things that otherwise, if you were to talk about it in the general public, people would sort of get away from you and not want to get into trouble. If you spoke about the greatest comedians of all time, like Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Dave Chappelle, Cat Williams, Eddie Murphy, the stuff that they talk about, Bill Burr, the stuff that these guys talk about and do so well in comedy, the general public is going to get away from. Only real comedy fans would sort of gravitate towards you and get excited. Same with horror. If you talk about your favorite pieces of horror fiction and why, if you talk about, the things that I mentioned from the authors that I like, those things will then cause the general public to get away from you and be like, oh, that's taboo. I don't want to talk about that. But real horror fans would perk up and get excited and be like, yeah, give me that. That's what I'm looking for. These books, classic horror literature, are safe. They're tame. The reason why these educational institutes bring them is because they're not really horror books. They're more so focused on the story of a man or woman or whatever and play into their growth and evolution. And that's what a lot of the time you see these college professors and, school professors, they'll focus on that aspect. And the horror itself, which is barely sprinkled in there, is very tame. It's very tame by nature. It's tame enough that it's safe to give to students to read. But is that the best horror? Like if you were to see a comedy movie, let's say you were to see a comedy movie in your school or in your college that was safe enough in terms of the subject matter that everybody could watch it without getting offended, and it more so focused on other things than the actual laughs. It could focused on, character study and character development and that type of stuff. Would you say that that's the best comedy movie out there? Would you say that that's the best comedy material? You wouldn't. It's those taboo things. It's the things that people are actually seeking out and want to read behind the scenes. Those are what makes it great. Stephen King said it. He said when you have these books in institutions and give it to people, a lot of the time kids don't want to read it because they think it's boring and they think it's all this literary prose and this type of stuff. But they want to go seek out that taboo stuff, the real stuff that they don't want you to get, that oftentimes ends up being amazing. And I think that we're in the age that so many underappreciated, underrated horror authors should be getting the shine. There is millions of horror stories out there by a bunch of different authors who publish in books, short story collections, comics, what name it. And they need love and they need appreciation. And I think that it's about time that we start giving them the love and appreciation that they desire. Because at the end of the day, my whole channel, I read kids horror, I read young adult horror, I read adult horror, I even read sometimes extreme horror. I do it for the love of horror. This is something I'm very passionate about, something that I love to death. And I think that it's about time that the people who are kind of the unsung heroes start getting that praise, start getting that recognition, start coming into the limelight a lot more than they already are or maybe should be, because we need to really honor horror fans. And there's so many authors out there who their works author horror fans rather than some of the classic literature out there, which is more so trying to honor, being the best written work. But is it the best horror work? I wouldn't say so. Far too tame, far too distracted on things that don't really matter. I'm not saying character development and studies are bad, but that should be an add-on. That should be an add-on to a horror story that makes it great, but it should not be the focus. It's that visceral key action and the way that it makes you think and the way that it's so creative and absurd and out there. That weirdness, that good amount of weirdness with the truth in there. That's what we should focus on. So hopefully with that, you understand why I speak the way I do about classic horror literature. And if you disagree with me, you can politely tell me in the comments down below. But I would encourage you guys out there to go maybe check out on Goodreads, go check out on other Reddits and websites, go talk to some of your horror fans and horror reviewer people. I will probably be one of those because I'm going to talk about as much horror content as I can throughout my, YouTube journey. But go check it out and go find some lesser known authors, some more weird tales and weird works and stranger books and just out there things that you otherwise know that it's not going to be literary the best in terms of its devices and how it's written, but the actual story itself is so engaging, so creative, so unique, so wild that you basically get taken away into this other world and fully immersed. And don't worry about being the most highly regarded reviewer or reader out there. Don't care about people's opinions. Just read what you like, read what you enjoy, and give everything an open-minded take. And that's all I got for today. If you guys enjoyed this discussion, a free way to support me is to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and comment down below your thoughts and opinions. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Why? Just keep it respectful in the comments, not just to me, but to others, as I've done to you. And as hopefully the people in the comments will do to you. Keep it respectful, y'all. But yeah, give me some recommendations for some books as well that you think support your points or how may be it. That's all I got for today. Hope you guys have a God bless day. Stay cool, stay happy, stay chill, stay nonchalant, and deuces. Horrorlander.